I'll pay triple if that's what it takes to make that pathetic wedding disappear. That voice, sharp, entitled, unmistakable, sliced through the stillness of the Moonstone estate. I froze outside the frosted glass doors, the morning sun turning the marble floors inside to liquid gold. My aunt's reflection glimmered through the glass, her hand jabbing at the air as if she could stab the word pathetic straight into someone's heart. Of course, it was my heart. I pushed open the door. "Hi, Mom," I called, clutching my folder of wedding sketches to my chest. "What's going on?" For a moment, everything stopped. Aunt Vivian turned, her expression flickering like a slot machine, shock, disbelief, then horror. Behind her, my cousin Isabella stood frozen, white-knuckling her designer bag like it could save her from drowning. "Savannah," Aunt Vivian whispered, her voice brittle as fine china. "What? How? Why are you here?" I smiled too sweetly. "Same reason you are, I guess, to talk wedding plans." I set the folder down on the desk beside my mother, the woman who owned this estate, this business, and every ounce of the quiet power in the room. Specifically, I said, "The Carter, Robert's wedding you're trying so hard to cancel." The air thinned. "My mother's venue," I added, "and my wedding." You could almost hear the Persian rug rip out from under Vivian's heels. She blinked hard. "That's impossible." "The Roberts girl goes by Carter now," I interrupted. "You'd know that if you'd RSVP'd instead of pretending I died 3 years ago." My mom, Margaret Delqua, elegant, composed, hiding her amusement behind a polite mask, glanced between us like a detective who'd just cracked a decades-old case. "The Roberts wedding," she said slowly. "That's your daughter's wedding, Vivian?" The silence broke into chaos. Isabella sputtered. "She's marrying some paramedic." "You can't seriously tell me she can afford a paramedic finishing his MD at Columbia," I cut in smoothly. "Marcus Carter. You might have met him, back before your nose job and moral decay." Isabella's mouth fell open. My aunt straightened her spine, the posture of a woman who'd rather die than admit she's losing. "Margaret," she began, her tone dripping with superiority. "Surely this is all a misunderstanding. The Wellington name carries weight in this community. Isabella's engagement to Prescott Hadley IV is the social event of the decade." "The same Prescott Hadley who bought his way through Princeton?" I asked, folding my arms. "Or the one who crashed his Ferrari into a Starbucks while high on his family's painkillers?" "Those reports were exaggerated." Isabella snapped. "I have copies," I said, pulling out my phone. "Public record. Turns out, Daddy's lawyers can't bury everything." "How dare you?" she hissed. "How dare I?" My voice rose before I could stop it. "You're marrying a man whose bloodstream is 70% narcotics and I'm the disgrace?" My mother cleared her throat, a queen calling her court to order. "Perhaps we should continue this privately." "No," I said, feeling years of silence and swallowed anger surge up all at once. "They started this in public. Let's finish it that way." I stepped closer to Vivian. "You know what's really pathetic? If you'd called me even once in the last 3 years, you'd have known about my wedding. You could have picked any other date." "As if we'd waste time on someone who threw away her legacy for love," Aunt Vivian sneered, though her eyes had started to tremble. "Legacy?" I laughed, the sound harsh against the chandelier light. "You mean the legacy of marrying for money and crying yourself to sleep? The legacy of pills at breakfast and affairs by lunchtime? At least we maintain the family reputation." "You maintain nothing." The words ripped from me before I could stop them. "You live off grandfather's money in a house full of ghosts, wearing jewelry Uncle William buys to apologize for his mistresses. And now you're marrying your daughter to a man who'll be dead before 40 if his liver doesn't give up first." "Savannah," Isabella started, but her voice cracked. "She's not wrong," she whispered. The room went still. "What did you just say?" Aunt Vivian's tone dropped to ice. "He was high at our engagement party," Isabella said softly. "He left halfway through to meet his dealer. Told everyone he had a medical emergency." Her bitter laugh echoed off the walls. "Guess technically he did." My aunt's face went ghost pale. "All men have their vices," she muttered, reaching for the old defense. "All men?" I asked. "Is that what you told yourself when Uncle William hit you?" Her head snapped toward me. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, but I do." I lowered my voice, suddenly tired. Summer of 2019, broken wrist, you said you fell off a horse. Except you hadn't ridden in years. Christmas 2020 concussion, skiing accident, even though there was no snow that December. Stop. Her voice cracked. I tried to help you, I whispered. I called. I texted. I sent resources. You blocked me. Told everyone I was spreading lies because I was jealous of your perfect life. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the birds outside seemed to stop singing. Across the desk, my mother looked at her sister with something that was no longer anger, just quiet heartbreak. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a wedding venue. This was about 20 years of buried truths clawing their way to the surface. That night, the house didn't sleep. Even after my aunt and cousin drove off in silence, the air inside Moonstone Estate stayed heavy, thick with the scent of peonies, perfume, and everything unspoken. My mother poured herself a glass of wine, one for me too, then sank into the velvet couch like a queen whose crown had started to ache. 3 years, she said quietly. And that's how she greets you. By calling your wedding pathetic. I sat across from her, still holding the glass I hadn't sipped. It's not surprising, is it? She stared into her wine. No, but it still hurts. The clock ticked. Somewhere outside, the fountain splashed in its endless loop, trying to sound peaceful. She used to love you, you know, my mother said. When you were little. She'd braid your hair. Tell you that you'd be the one to fix this family someday. Guess I failed spectacularly, I murmured. She smiled sadly. Or maybe you're the only one still trying. I wanted to believe that. But after today, it felt like trying to glue back glass after a hurricane. The next morning, I woke to the sound of rain and my phone buzzing nonstop. Messages, calls, tags. My stomach sank before I even opened the first one. Don't tell me, I whispered. But of course, I didn't need to finish the sentence. Isabella had gone nuclear. My engagement photo, Marcus and me at the lakeshore, his arms around me, my head tilted back in laughter, was now plastered all over her story. Cropped, filtered, captioned with venom. When charity projects think they're brides. The comments came fast. Is that the paramedic guy? Wait, she's marrying him? Does her family even know? And then, the one that made my heart twist. Money can't buy class, but it can rent a venue. I sat there for a long minute, just breathing. Marcus found me like that, still in my robe, coffee cold beside me. He read one look at my face and sighed. What did they do now? I handed him the phone. He scrolled, jaw tightening. Want me to respond? He asked. No. My voice cracked. That's what they want, attention. I won't play their game. He cupped my face gently. Then we make our own rules. I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. Because deep down I knew, families like mine never stop playing. They just changed the stakes. 2 days later, an invitation arrived. Cream paper. Gold edges. No return address, but I didn't need one. Dinner at the Wellington residence. 7 p.m. Attendance expected. No name. Just that, like a summons. Don't go, Marcus said immediately. You know what this is. I have to, I said. If I don't show up, they'll twist it into something worse. I want to hear what they think they can still control. So at 7 sharp, I drove back into the lion's den. The Wellington mansion hadn't changed, still too big, too bright, too desperate to look timeless. Inside, my Uncle William sat at the head of the table like a man carved from arrogance and whiskey. Vivian beside him, brittle smile glued in place. Isabella scrolled her phone, pretending not to see me. Savannah, Uncle said, leaning back. Finally. The prodigal niece returns. Funny, I replied. Usually the prodigal son gets a feast. I just got insults. He chuckled, low, dangerous. Still dramatic, I see. Vivian reached for a wine glass. We're not here to fight. We're here to discuss the wedding. Which part? I asked. The one you tried to cancel, or the one you're pretending doesn't exist? My uncle sighed, like I was a child who didn't understand business. You have to see reason. This marriage, it reflects on all of us. The Delqua, Wellington name stands for generations of control, I said. He blinked. Excuse me. Control, I repeated, louder. You control who we date, who we marry, what we study, how we smile in photos. And when we stop playing your game, you punish us. Savannah, that's not. It's exactly that, I said. You controlled Aunt Vivian. You controlled Isabella. And you tried to control me. But that ends now. Enough. Vivian snapped, slamming her glass down so hard red wine bled across the tablecloth. You think love makes you immune to reality? You'll be back here in a year, crying for help. Just like I did. Something inside me broke. Not with anger, with understanding. You're not angry at me, I said softly. You're angry at yourself. Because I did what you couldn't. Her lip trembled. And what's that? I left. The silence after that felt like standing in a storm's eye. Uncle William rose, towering, his voice a low growl. You think you can walk away from this family and still use our name? Our resources? I'm not asking for your money, I said. I never was. He leaned closer. You'll regret this. You always come back. They always do. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth under all that power, fear. Fear that someone could exist without him. I pushed my chair back. Not this time. As I turned toward the door, Isabella spoke, barely above a whisper. Savannah, wait. I froze. Her eyes shimmered not with malice, but something else. Shame. He's right about one thing. Nobody leaves. But if you can, maybe I can too. Our eyes met, and for the first time in years, I saw my cousin, not the spoiled version, but the girl I used to share secrets with. Then don't wait for permission, I told her. Just go. When I drove home that night, the rain had stopped. The city lights blurred in the windshield, reflections of everything broken and beautiful. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt free. But freedom always has a cost, and I had no idea that the bill was already on its way. Freedom, it turns out, isn't quiet. It's loud, like the sound of your phone exploding with missed calls. Like your mother pacing outside your room, whispering, "Don't answer them, sweetheart." Like your own heartbeat when you realize your family isn't just angry. They're plotting. It started 3 days after that dinner. I was at the cafe near the hospital, waiting for Marcus between shifts, when the news alert flashed across the TV above the counter. Wellington family statement, concerns over niece's mental health. My stomach turned to ice. The reporter kept talking, polished, professional, oblivious. Sources confirm the family has expressed worry about Savannah Delqua's well-being, citing erratic behavior and emotional instability following her recent engagement. I didn't hear the rest. The world narrowed to a tunnel. My pulse roared in my ears. They hadn't just disowned me, they'd decided to erase me. By the time Marcus found me, I was sitting outside, rain seeping through my coat, staring at the phone like it might explode. He crouched beside me. Save, what happened? I showed him the screen. His eyes darkened as he read the headline. Jesus Christ, he muttered. They can't do this. This is libel. It's strategy, I whispered. If they can make people think I'm unstable, no one believes me. Not if I ever talk about them. Not if Isabella ever tries to leave. Marcus clenched his jaw. We'll fight it. Legally, publicly, whatever it takes. But I shook my head. They've been playing this game for decades. I'm not fighting on their board anymore. I looked at him, feeling the first flicker of something fierce and dangerous. I'm flipping the table. That night, I opened the old cedar chest my mother had kept locked for years. Inside, letters, documents, photos, all meticulously labeled in her handwriting. Mom? I asked quietly. What is this? She hesitated at the doorway, hands twisting a handkerchief. Insurance, she said finally. Your grandfather's estate. Records. Secrets your uncle would rather stay buried. I looked through the papers, my hands trembling, evidence of shady investments, fraudulent trusts, even proof of an offshore account under Isabella's name. My mother sat beside me, voice low. Your aunt was supposed to destroy all this after the estate settled. But she couldn't. She gave them to me instead. Said, if he ever hurts Savannah, give her the truth. Aunt Vivian said that? I whispered. She nodded. Once. Years ago. Before she stopped being herself. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at the neat rows of lies preserved on paper. This was my family's power. This was their legacy. And now it was mine. Marcus tried to stop me that morning. "You're not thinking clearly," he said, gripping my shoulders. "If you go public, they'll destroy you. They'll make something up, plant evidence." "They already did," I said. "They called me unstable. I've got nothing left to lose." He searched my face, then sighed, that quiet surrender of someone who knows the person they love has already made up their mind. "Then I'm with you," he said softly. "No matter what." I smiled, but my stomach was a storm, because I wasn't sure either of us understood what no matter what would cost. The press conference wasn't planned. It wasn't even formal. It happened outside City Hall, under gray clouds that smelled like rain and endings. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted my name. I didn't have a statement, just the truth. "My family says I'm unstable," I began, voice shaking. "Maybe I am. Because I spent 27 years pretending their cruelty was normal." The murmurs quieted. "They call me emotional." They're right. I cried when my uncle embezzled from our charity foundation and my aunt pretended not to know. I screamed when my cousin's fiancé overdosed in our guest house and they paid to cover it up. Flash. 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 They taught me that silence keeps the peace. But peace built on silence is just fear wearing pearls. I held up a folder, copies of everything. These are the truths they wanted buried. Consider this my wedding gift to the world. The next morning, chaos erupted. Headlines screamed. Investigations launched. The Wellington name, untouchable for generations, was now tangled in scandal. And me? I should have felt victorious. But instead, I felt hollow. Because when the empire burns, the smoke doesn't ask whose match it was. My phone buzzed again, a number I didn't recognize. I answered. "Hello." The voice on the other end was quiet, fragile, and painfully familiar. "Savannah, it's Isabella." I froze. "They took my passport," she whispered. "They said I can't leave the house until this media circus dies down." Uncle's furious. He's blaming me for everything. My heart twisted. "Where are you right now?" "The main house. West Wing." Her breath hitched. "Save, I think he knows you had the files." The line went dead. That night, I packed a small bag and left the city. Not because I wanted revenge anymore, but because I couldn't leave her there. I told Marcus not to follow. He argued, but I promised I'd be careful. "Just trust me," I said, kissing him one last time before stepping into the storm. "I started this. I have to finish it." As the highway lights blurred into streaks, I realized what freedom really cost. It wasn't money. It wasn't safety. It was blood, and I was driving straight toward it. The Wellington mansion looked different at night. Not grand, just haunted. The gates were half open, rain dripping off the iron like tears. I parked my car on the side road, headlights off, and crept through the wet grass. Every step felt like walking into a memory I'd spent years trying to forget. When I reached the back door, the one near the old greenhouse, I paused. The handle was cold, rusted, but it turned easily. They'd never changed the locks. They never thought anyone would dare come back. Inside, the house was too quiet. Only the hum of the chandelier lights and the faint echo of a TV somewhere upstairs. "Isabella?" I whispered. No answer. I moved through the hallway past portraits of men who'd built their empire on fear and women who'd learned to smile through it. Every frame felt like a warning. "Savannah," a voice whispered suddenly. I turned, and there she was, standing at the end of the hall. Isabella. Pale, shaking, barefoot in her silk nightgown. She ran into my arms before I could speak. "You shouldn't have come," she sobbed. "He's furious. He's been drinking all night. He said if he finds you." "I know," I said, holding her tight. "We're leaving. Right now." She pulled back, eyes wide. "We can't. The security guards." "I'll handle them," I said. "Just trust me." We crept down the servants' hallway, the one Vivian and I used to sneak through as kids. I thought we were almost safe, until a voice broke the silence. "Well," it drawled. "The prodigal daughter returns, again." Uncle William stepped from the shadows, a glass of whiskey dangling in his hand. His face was red, eyes glassy, but his voice was sharp as ever. "You always had a flair for drama, Savannah," he said. "Running to the press. Turning your family into a circus." "This isn't drama," I said quietly. "It's truth." He laughed, a low, cruel sound. "Truth? You don't even know the half of it." He tossed something onto the floor. "A folder, one of mine." "Did you really think I wouldn't find your little collection?" he sneered. "You think you can expose me and just walk away?" I stood my ground. "You already exposed yourself." He took a slow step closer. "You've ruined this family. Everything your grandfather built. Everything your mother protected." "My mother protected me," I said. "Something you wouldn't understand." His smile faltered. "You always thought you were better than us." "No," I said softly. "I just refused to become you." For a moment, the only sound was rain against the glass. Then a sharp clatter. The whiskey glass hit the floor, shattering. He took another step. I felt Isabella tremble behind me. "William, stop," came a new voice, hoarse but steady. Aunt Vivian stood in the doorway, her robe loosely tied, face drawn but eyes blazing. "Enough." He turned on her. "You stay out of this." "No," she said, and her voice didn't shake. "For once in my life, I won't." She crossed the room, standing between us like a wall of quiet fury. "You don't scare me anymore." His expression twisted. "You wouldn't have a roof over your head if it weren't for me." "I'd rather sleep under the rain," she said. "At least it's honest." Something inside him snapped then. I saw it happen, the moment pride turned to rage. He lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. I didn't think. I just moved. The crash was loud, a lamp, a chair, I couldn't tell. Vivian stumbled free, and I stepped between them, adrenaline burning through fear. "Touch her again," I said, voice shaking, "and I swear." He stopped. His face twisted with disgust, but his hand fell away. Maybe it was the shock of my defiance, or the sirens that began to wail faintly in the distance, the security alarm Vivian must have triggered when she came in. He backed away slowly, muttering, "You'll regret this, both of you." Then he was gone. The police arrived 20 minutes later. By morning, the house was swarming with reporters. Word of financial crimes, domestic abuse, and fraud spread faster than any family's secret ever had. Vivian sat on the porch steps, blanket around her shoulders, staring at the gray dawn. "He'll go to prison," she said quietly. I nodded. "And you'll finally be free." She gave me a small, tired smile. "I don't even know what that means anymore." "It means you get to start over," I said. "We all do." The weeks that followed were a blur, court statements, interviews, headlines. My mother stood by me, silent but proud. Isabella moved into our guest room, slowly learning how to breathe without fear. Sometimes, late at night, I'd stand by the window with Marcus's arms around me and wonder if I'd done the right thing. If tearing everything down had really been worth it. But then I'd remember my aunt's face that night, not broken, but alive. And I'd know. Freedom isn't clean. It's messy, it's painful, it leaves scars. But it's real. The day of my wedding was small, no chandeliers, no headlines, no family name to live up to. Just the people who stayed when everything else fell apart. When Marcus took my hands, he whispered, "You look like peace." I smiled. "No," I said. "I look like survival." As the sun set over the lake, I saw my mother and aunt sitting together, laughing softly, like they used to. Isabella tossed flower petals into the wind, barefoot and smiling. And for the first time in forever, the name Wellington meant nothing. But the name Savannah Carter, that meant everything. Because it wasn't an inheritance of money or status or control. It was an inheritance of truth. And this time, the story was finally mine.